Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus, today joined by my friend and co-host, Mayrob here. It has been quite a bit since we were last live here together, but there is a lot to talk about here. A wild weekend in sports over multiple different sports. MLB All-Star break kicks off today with the home run derby. James Wood, Nationals legend, just kicked it off with a 16 home run first round. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about, of course, the breaking news today. Garrett Wilson, the newest $30 million man. He gets a 4-year, $130 million contract extension, including $90 million in guarantees. That is a lot of money for a really solid receiver over there in Garrett Wilson. And that's actually where we're going to start off here first, Mayrob. We're going to start off with Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson making $32.6 million a year over the next 4 seasons. He's an interesting wide receiver here. He undoubtedly is an elite receiver in this league, winning Rookie of the Year out of Ohio State, immediately becoming the undoubted wide receiver one, despite all of the quarterback troubles that he's had to deal with in New York. 6 quarterbacks through his first few seasons in the NFL. Garrett Wilson has had 1,000 yards in each of those years. The touchdown numbers haven't really been there for him, but that's not necessarily his fault. The Jets trying to make a statement here. They bring in Justin Fields. They've talked about extending Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner, both of their guys that won Rookie of the Year on either side of the ball together. This is a move that kind of had to happen for them. We've seen a lot of wide receiver holdouts recently. They get ahead of it here, and they save a little bit of money. That's not market resetting money. That's not Jamar Chase. That's not Justin Jefferson money. I think that's going to be a trend going forward with these wide receivers. We've seen DK Metcalf get that kind of contract, sitting around that $30 million number. Brandon Ayuk sitting around that $30 million number. What do you make of this contract, Mayrob, here?
I think this is a great move for the Jets, no doubt. You lose out on Aaron Rodgers in the offseason, a guy that you bring in 3 years ago to kind of try and turn around the state of the franchise in general. He tears his Achilles in 4 downs, and it what looked like it was going to be a match made in heaven, or Devontae Adams 2.0 type of combination with him and Aaron Rodgers. It was a pipe dream in a second. But this was a good move for the Jets. This is a guy in Garrett Wilson that's given you a lot over the last 6 years, like you mentioned, 1,000+ yards in every one of those seasons. You needed to cement some talent over there. And you have Justin Fields that's going to be slinging it as well this year. Do I think this is going to improve the state of the Jets moving forward? I don't think so. I think they still have some more glaring problems, but this is a step in the right direction. If they let Garrett Wilson walk out the door, I mean, that's a guy that's kind of turned the state of your franchise around. He's a fan favorite. He brings in ticket price. People come to watch Garrett Wilson in New York in a way. So this is a great move for the Jets. I'm happy that they came to their senses and paid him. And like you mentioned, it was a little bit of you would have expected a little bit more money coming out of that contract, and we'll talk about more how it's going to affect other people's contract moving forward throughout the rest of this offseason. But great move for the Jets, no doubt about it, and they made a good move on this one.
One of the big impacts that I think you kind of are pushing towards here is not just on Garrett Wilson. Whenever you see a contract get signed in any league, any position, you have to look at who's next up. And there's a lot of guys that are next up. In the headlines today, Juwan Jennings, from the 49ers, looking for a contract or a trade. More tumult over there for the 49ers, some more turmoil over there. And Terry McLaurin is probably the big name over there with the Washington Commanders, a guy who just had an elite season in his first time having a real quarterback in Jaden Daniels. I think the comparisons between him and Garrett Wilson are kind of accurate. They're pretty close to each other. Both Ohio State products, both guys that have had not the greatest quarterback situations throughout their career and yet have continued to thrive and put up numbers despite that. How do you think it affects guys like Terry? How do you think it affects guys like Juwan Jennings, stuff like that moving forward as we look ahead to this offseason?
I think it definitely impacts people. I don't think Joan Jennings is at that level yet. I think he has a great upside, and he showed a lot of that this season with Debo Samuel being injured for most of the season. But I think it impacts guy like a Terry McLaurin very well. I think this is going to pay dividends for him, and when I say that, I mean it's going to ending up being more money in his pocket in the next contract he gets with the Commanders. He's been in a stalemate for a while now, and this has been something that we've been monitoring for a while in free agency. It was one of the big headline stories in Washington. They go to the NFC Championship game for the first time in forever. They finally have some playoff success. They have a new young start QB over there, and you want to pair him up with a quality receiver. If you're looking at Washington, they've been in a stalemate, and it's been over the money situation. But at the end of the day, this is going to pay off more for Terry McLaurin and for the future of the QB of the wide receiver market out there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, every market grows with every big contract. There's lots of guys in his class that are coming up soon that are going to be looking to make more money than a Garrett Wilson is making. But 4 years, and I think really the big part of this contract that stands out more than the $130 million big number is the guaranteed number. It's $90 million guaranteed for him. That is near the top of the list. So while he may not be getting, top receiver money, he's getting top 5 receiver guarantees. He's the 4th highest guaranteed per year money by wide receiver. That includes guys like Jamar Chase, includes guys like Justin Jefferson. He's in that upper echelon with them without the Jets having to shell out all of that top 10, top tier money for him, saving that extra $8 million against the cap. That is huge for them going forward, a team that is not really in the greatest situation moving forward with the cap because of all of the older players that are on the team, the younger players that are coming up for contracts soon. This is a Jets team that could use, yes, a big contract like Garrett Wilson that'll keep him there through his prime, but also isn't going to break the bank as much as you might expect one of these kind of contracts to in the future.
Yeah, this is just you said it best. This was a money saver. This was a team friendly contract, and when you have QBs that are the QB market that's going like skyrocketing through the air, um, we didn't talk about it, but that's a big reason why Terry McLaurin is having his contract holdout right now. Because the reason that Washington is holding off from paying him is because they know they have a guy um, named Jaden Daniels. His name slipped my mind for a second. Jaden Daniels, who's going to get paid very soon. So that is a big part of this, and that's going to be a big thing moving forward, big trend.
Yeah, you got to pay your guys. Terry McLaurin is a discussion that I think we'll have later on in the offseason here because that one is something to monitor. I still generally think he's going to get his contract done in Washington, but as people start to report to minicamp, as these guys start to, really begin a holdout for real, that's when things are gonna get started. As we've seen our first couple players report to minicamp, and one of the things that I want to talk about with that has to do with second round picks in general. Of course, one of the big stories with that with the second round picks this year, have to do with the fact that none of them are signing their contracts. 30 of 32 second round picks have yet to sign their contract with their team. Now, the reason for this is the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans have bucked the trend. The Houston Texans have made their second round pick rookie wide receiver out of Iowa State, fully guaranteed second round contract. That is something that is generally only set guaranteed money wise for first round picks. Now all these other second round picks are looking at that and they're saying, we need to get our guaranteed money. A story came out pretty recently around the NFL with the collusion efforts that was proven for the lack of paying players fully guaranteed contracts. After the Deshaun Watson contract was fully guaranteed by the Browns, the entire NFL colluded, and we haven't seen a fully guaranteed contract since, right? We now see that happen with rookies. Teams are still not willing to pay these guys fully guaranteed contracts, which every other major sport in America does, by the way, so they absolutely should. But this is going to become a problem going forward. How big of an issue do you really think this is, Mayrob? And what are we looking at in terms of an entire round holding out at this point?
Well, I think it's especially with the appearance of NIL and the NCAA with how much money college athletes are making, this is going to make a big deal for players that are trying to come out of college quickly to make it to the big leagues for whatever it may be, for money, for stature, whatever it might be. When you are, especially in football, when you are putting your body on the line the way that football players do every Sunday, and in a sport that requires so much time, so much effort, you have to build your life around the sport. It is one of those things where you expect to get paid, especially on a professional level like that, with guaranteed money. To if in case of God forbid you get an injury, any type of emergency happens, the player has a safety net to land on just in case. The what the owners, NFL owners are doing, like you mentioned with the what how they colluded with the Deshaun Watson contract, that was one of the I think we both agree when we say that was one of the worst contracts in NFL history. It's
Did
not
not go
just
well for sure.
it was not only bad in terms of guaranteed money, how much Deshaun Watson got paid in that contract, is the fact that Deshaun Watson missed over 60% of the games that has been under that
And
contract.
counting.
And that is a big reason why owners have been steadfast about paying their players. The fact that they're going around draft picks now and not even giving them any guaranteed money is a little bit of an issue. I think that's pushing the bar, but I do understand where owners are coming from. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's the way to go, but I do think it has to come to a point where you can't just say no guarantee. There has to be some sort of compromise here.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to be or where it's going to come from, but it has to be some level of compromise.
Right. And we've seen the first of these second round holdouts, Trey Harris, wide receiver or potential future wide receiver for the Los Angeles Chargers there, not reporting to the first round of rookie minicamps as teams start to come back from that summer break of theirs. It's going to be really interesting to see how many of these guys actually hold out. I'm sure agents are talking to each other. A lot of these guys have the same agents, or these agents are in discussion with one another saying, hey, we have to put pressure on the league the way that the league did this. And I think that might even be a part of why this has become such a huge thing. Again, having 30 of 32 players from one round not being signed is almost unheard of in this day and age in the NFL, right? Especially the second round. Like, we still kind of brushed under the radar a little bit, but Shamar Stewart still hasn't signed his contract either, right? There's a lot of stuff going on with these NFL teams trying to penny pinch a little bit around, especially those rookie contracts, as other contracts continue to get more and more expensive. We just finished talking about Garrett Wilson. $32 million a year for a wide receiver is not the kind of money people were expecting to pay wide receivers 10 years ago. $60 million for a quarterback is not the kind of money people were expecting to pay quarterbacks 10 years ago. They were sitting around 20 or $30 million, the highest paid ones, right? Eli Manning, one of the most one of those quarterbacks that made the most money out of any quarterback over the course of his career when he retired, finished out his career making about $35 million a year, right? That was where he was sitting at. That is chump change today when we're talking about quarterbacks. And NFL owners are going to continue to try and find ways to make their team cheaper, right? It might be a no sweat investment to own a football team, seemingly with the cap going up every year, but it's still expensive. You still have to have the bankroll to bank, millions upon millions of dollars every single year to pay for these teams. It's not like it comes without having to have these deep pockets, and we're seeing it especially in Cincinnati with that ownership group struggling. We're seeing a lot of stuff going on where teams might be up for sale soon, and it's going to be really interesting to see how teams continue to change their tactics around contracts as more pressure, I think, goes towards fully guaranteed contracts like in every single sport. Maybe the CBA, the owners step in the CBA where they say we're never doing that. That could be something that causes a lockout, though. So lots of things that could go wrong or really just disrupt the entire sport from here. But what's the future you see, or what is the solution, I guess, that you see from this kind of big explosion of contract holdouts from these second rounders here?
Well, I think I think you honestly touched on something at the end of what you just said, and I Honestly, I think it just answered the question you just asked me. I think it's going to come down to a lockout at some point. I think eventually there's going to be a lockout between the players and the ownership. And I think it's going to be brought up by the ownership. It might not be fair, but this is the state. This is the state of competition that's been built up in the NFL. This is time and time again the next guy up making more money, asking for more money, asking for the next record-breaking deal. This has been something that's been happening for 4 or 5 years now. Um, and we see it across all sports. This isn't just NFL. To prove that this is how there's a reason that there's the ownerships are going after their second round draft picks or their draft picks in general to try and cut corners on their guaranteed money. When you see projected contracts, I'm going to go back to Washington for a second. When you see projected contracts like a guy like a just Jaden Daniels who just made the NFC Championship game after his rookie season or in his rookie season, when you see him getting news of projected contracts of over $100 million a year, that is how you know that contracts are getting really expensive. Jaden Daniels is the next guy up in Washington, and it's a big reason why they've been holding out on Terry McLaurin's contract. So all around, this is this is an all-around problem. This isn't just about the draft picks. This isn't just about the QBs. This is something that's going to continue to happen across all positions, across the NFL in general, and it's going to come down to a stalemate to probably end it.
Something that's years away at this point, but something that we do need to get into here, as we've been doing for the last couple of shows here. We've been going position by position, doing a top 10 ranking. We did our quarterbacks and running backs last week. Time to break out the wide receivers here. Both me and May Rob have made a list here. We're going to start off with our top 10 with our honorable mentions, excuse me, at that wide receiver position. I'm going to start off. I will say I have 6 guys that almost made the list for me. I have them just outside of it. A couple guys we've talked about already. Terry McLaurin, Garrett Wilson, 2 guys that were one step away from my list. Garrett Wilson I had at number 11 here for me. Those guys, Terry McLaurin is a little bit older in my eyes, and I don't think he's going to keep these peaks for much longer. A guy that has this peak, though, Mike Evans, also in an honorable mentions, and Devontae Adams. Some of these veterans that were top 10 maybe a couple years ago have been surpassed by some of those younger guys. And then a guy like Devonta Smith, who I love what he does over in Philadelphia, and Tyreek Hill with his speed. You can never quite take him out of there. But those are my guys that just missed the list there. You have a couple guys that just missed out on your top 10 over there, May Rob.
Yeah. First one has to go to Brian Thomas Jr. for me, a guy in Jacksonville that absolutely he kind of came out late in the season last year and kind of went on a show. I have him coming up next year and being a force at this season. I mean, and he's going to be a force for the Jaguars. Him and Drake London for the Falcons is another sneaky guy that I think could end up cracking the top 10 when the season's all said and done. But I'm keeping him just outside, just to temper expectations a little bit.
It's funny you mentioned those 2 guys. Those are actually my 9 and 10. Drake London at number 10 for me is someone that you talk about size, you talk about speed, you talk about route running. That's exactly what you get. He's going to have his best quarterback that he's had. He's played with an injured Kirk Cousins. He's played with Taylor Heineke. He's played with, not too many great quarterbacks over his career, but now Michael Penix steps in, and I thought the connection they had at the end of the season was really solid. Penix throws lasers, and he's got to be able to handle that a little bit better, but I think the connection, especially on those deep balls, is going to be amazing this season. He's at number 9. He's at number 10, excuse me. And number 9 for me is Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. is a rookie phenom. He was top 5 in the NFL last year in terms of receiving yards on a Jacksonville Jaguars team that had nobody else. His outside receiver skills are just unlike we have seen in a long time down there in South Florida. He's got the speed to burn, and he's got the route running chops to get over there. Pairing him up with Travis Hunter is going to be a deadly duo with Trevor Lawrence. I can't wait to see how that goes. Maybe Trevor Lawrence, some sneaky MVP right there. Maybe not. But those are my 9 and 10 right there. Those two guys, two young guys that are looking to take another big step forward up this season.
Yeah, I could definitely see Trevor Lawrence getting into that conversation. That's why I'm keeping Brian Thomas Jr. in the honorable mentions. I just think I left the bottom five of my list just to keep it a little bit interesting. I think I just put some wild cards in there personally, just for food for thought. At my number 10, I put AJ Brown, a guy in Philadelphia who's absolutely torn it up as a veteran, as a veteran wide receiver at this point. An absolute big body receiver in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, one of Jalen Hurts' favorite targets. Um, there's not much to say. He's been around the league for so long, and he's in the prime of his career. He won a championship, and I think AJ Brown's going to have. He struggled a little bit at the tail end of the season. I expect him to come out and have a little bit more of a resurgence this year. Number 9, I actually put one of your honorable mentions, Mike Evans, Mr. Consistent, Mr. Consistent 1,000 yards. He's had what 11 in a row now, 11 seasons in a row of 1,000 yard seasons. He's a guy that Baker Mayfield loves. He's a down deep threat. Um, I wouldn't be shocked if this is his last year in the NFL, but he is definitely one of those premier guys in the NFL that whenever he touches the field, you always need to know where he is on the field.
Yeah, I can't believe you have AJ Brown that low. I got to be completely honest with you. That is shocking to me. You're talking about a guy that's had 1,500, 1,400, and 1,100 yards in his 3 years with the Eagles, as well as, again, in 3 years with the Eagles, 25 touchdowns, averaging over 13 yards per reception each and every year. That guy's a beast, man. I think 10 is a little disrespectful, but at least he's on your top 10. Uh, wow. I'll finish up my bottom five here. These are a bunch of young guys that I think are really near the top. Puka Nacua at number 8. Maybe the best hands in the entire NFL right there. Puka Nacua has with the Rams. His connection with Matthew Stafford is amazing, and him going to be across from Devontae Adams is going to be maybe the best wide receiver duo in the entire NFL. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the best slot receiver in the NFL, no doubt about it. What he's able to do, again, with Jared Goff on that Lions team, just his ability to get open and get receptions is amazing. He gets better statistically and by the eye test every single year. And then one more rookie rounds out my bottom half of the top 10 in Malik Nabers. Malik Nabers, if he is a real quarterback, you watch out. A couple years from now, he could be the best receiver in the NFL with his shiftiness and his after the catch ability as well. Malik Nabers is my 6th best receiver in the NFL.
Malik Nabers is going to be a stud, but I'm a little bit worried about his QB situation.
Should be.
So for my number 8, I put a team. This is my favorite team. This is a team that I think is going to take the league by storm next year and playing in the toughest conference in the NFL, in the NFC North. I'm going with DJ Moore in the Chicago Bears. I love his speed.
Okay.
I love his hands. I think Caleb Williams is going to be an absolute stud this year. I think he's going to be in contention for most improved player in the NFL. And I think the Bears are going to shock some people. I got DJ Moore going at 8, and watch out for him leading the hottest team in the NFL this season.
Okay.
After that, I'm going with you might get a little annoyed by this because I put this guy over AJ Brown, but I'm going with the injury-prone guy Nico Collins with the Houston Texans. A deep ball threat, another young guy that I think really hasn't really shown exactly what he can do. He's had little spurts, he had flashes of how good he can be, but I think if he can stay healthy, and I think this year could be that year for the Texans and CJ Stroud, he can get his favorite target back. Nico Collins, expect him to be really good this year as well. And to close out the bottom half of the top 10, I have Garrett Wilson in the New York Jets. He just got paid. I think Justin Fields is going to love him, and I think it's going to be really interesting. We finally see Justin Fields getting some actual starting repetitions with a team. It's going to be interesting to see how much he relies on Garrett Wilson and how much of a connection those two have. I think that rounds out my top 10, right? The bottom half of my top 10 right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand where you're coming from with all of those guys, and all those guys are very good, no doubt about it. I thought there was going to be a consensus top five. Honestly, I was going to start this with there's a clear top five here, but you have two of my top five guys in the bottom half here. And I don't even want to know what you do because I think there should be a pretty clear at least three guys at the top for you, if not for a couple of if not for a couple of my top five. But we'll get into it. We'll start off with my number five guy. I've got Nico Collins here. Nico Collins, like you said, is injury prone, but when he's on the field, he was on pace to go for 2,000 yards last season, just about. He probably would have won Offensive Player of the Year if not for Saquon Barkley's historic season, again, if he had stayed healthy. Nico Collins is an elite every single level of the field wide receiver. You talk about the combination of size and speed for him. Nico Collins is absolutely something special. He is my fifth best receiver here. 1,000 yards on 68 receptions. Again, 80 receptions, 1,300 yards last year. Over 13 yards per catch. That's kind of that elite number every single year. We talked about that with A.J. Brown. We talk about that with Nico Collins here. He is one of the best receivers in the league, and he's only 26. He's going to get better. He's just hitting his prime. He is my fifth best receiver in the league.
I'm actually happy that I have another guy that put Nico. I thought that was going to be my shocking pick. Definitely, I'm happy that he's in the top five. He's going to be one of those star-studded guys that I think makes a breakout year this year. At five, I have Amon-Ra St. Brown. You mentioned the best slot receiver in the NFL, an absolute stud in Detroit. Jared Goff, his favorite target. All around, his athleticism, his speed, the way his ability to catch the ball, his hands, across the board. Amon-Ra is everything you need and more as a wide receiver. He's my number five guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Amon-Ra Brown there. Amon-Ra St. Brown there. Absolute menace at that wide receiver position. My number four pick, it's CeeDee Lamb. He might be a guy that I suspect you have at number three. But CeeDee Lamb for me is special for a lot of reasons. He carried that Dallas offense for the past couple years, over 100 receptions in each of the last 3 seasons. Of course, last year with a little bit down, but it's hard to go up when you finish with 135 catches, nearly 1,800 yards, and 12 touchdowns. It's hard to go up from there. So even in his down year, he finished with over 100 catches for nearly 1,200 yards and added 6 touchdowns to the mix. He's going to be a lot better now that he has someone on the other side of him that, defenses won't be able to double and triple team him every time he goes out there. I think he is elite, and I thought he was one of those guys that was clearly, undoubtedly, top 5 in the NFL.
Well, you think I have CeeDee Lamb at 3, but I actually have him at 4, just like you. So
Okay.
We're both in the same spot. We're both thinking the same way. CeeDee Lamb was the reason why the Dallas Cowboys made it as far as they did in the playoffs. It was unfortunate that he got injured in that last round, in the divisional round. But I think he's going to come back. I think Dak Prescott's going to have a comeback year this year, and I think we're going to continue to see CeeDee Lamb grow in that wide receiver position in Dallas.
Yeah.
At number 3, I have Jamar Chase, the guy in Cincinnati.
Whoa.
A guy that I thought this is a guy that I had in contention as the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL 2 years ago. The reason why he's fallen to 3 is the fact that he had a little bit of a down year, whether that's his fault or not. I know Joe Burrow got injured earlier in the year, and I know his offensive line was putrid at best, saying it lightly. But this is a guy in Jamar Chase that will have a comeback year this year. I think he's going to come back for that number 1 the number 1 receiver in the league crown, and he's my number 3 receiver on my list.
I don't know what you think a down year is, man, but winning the Triple Crown at receiver is not a down year in my books. Jamar Chase at 3, I think, is insane. I think there's clearly, I've said clearly and undoubtedly a couple times here, but unquestionably, there are 2 receivers above the rest of them in my mind. I talked about A.J. Brown earlier. He's at 3 for me. I have no idea where you're going with this, man. I've got no idea. A.J. Brown, like I said, he has been elite for the Eagles ever since coming over. And even in his time with the Titans, he has been an incredibly special wide receiver. He is a guy that you can just kind of toss the ball up to. If it's one-on-one, it's not a 50-50 ball with him. It's an 80-20, maybe even less than that for the cornerback. A.J. Brown is the best jump ball receiver in the NFL. He's the best deep threat receiver in the NFL, even though he's not really built for that as a massive guy. A.J. Brown, 6'1", 226, is just everything you want out of a freak of a wide receiver and more. And he's kind of that sneaky engine that makes that Eagles team go. As good as that offensive line is, as good as Saquon Barkley was, you need to be able to threaten people over the top. And without A.J. Brown there, the Eagles just, people would crowd the box there against them. So A.J. Brown, absolutely special. He's my number 3 wide receiver here. Number 2 for me, and really it's more a 1A, 1B situation, it's Ja'Marr Chase. I love Ja'Marr Chase. Like I said, triple crown season. Not a down year at all. He could have, maybe even should have, won Offensive Player of the Year last year. He gets paid like at $40 million for him this offseason. Ja'Marr Chase, very, very special talent. And if you put him at number 1, I would not be shocked at all. But number 3, I don't know what we're doing here, man. Who's your number 2?
Okay. I guess I should have put the disclaimer 1, 2, 3 are pretty much 1A, 1A, 1B, 1C. I'm right there with you. My top 3 was so hard to choose. At number 2, I have Tyreek Hill, the guy in Miami, the little guy, the cheetah, an unbelievable player. His speed, he is one of those guys that no matter what, some people call him overrated. I think he's just one of those guys. He's like the Steph Curry of the NFL. Maybe not in terms of championship and success, postseason success, but he is a guy that can destroy a game single-handedly whenever he wants to. A guy who almost went for 2,000 yards last season. A guy that, honestly, if he had a better quarterback, maybe if he stayed in Kansas City, maybe he would have had he would be higher in this list. But this is a guy in Tyreek Hill that is a stud, and I would not be shocked. There have been a little bit of rumors that he's been a little bit frustrated with Miami in terms of postseason success. So watch out for that name just in case his name pops up at the end of the trade deadline.
I don't know, man. I think you might have turned yourself back a whole year on the clock here. He was the one that had the down year in my mind. Tyreek Hill. He's number 16 for me, if I'm being completely honest with you. He made my honorable mentions list, but 14 spots back for you. I see what you see. The upside there, his speed is game-breaking, no doubt about it. But I just think he's on the wrong side of 30 at this point. He's crossed his prime as a wide receiver, and he's still good. But number 2, ahead of Ja'Marr Chase, ahead of CeeDee Lamb, I don't know about that, man. But number 1, it's got to be, unless you're throwing something else at me here, it's got to be Justin Jefferson, right? Has to be Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson, Jay Jettas, the best wide receiver in the league here. He also gets paid over $35 million an offseason ago. He's entering year 6, and immediately the impact he made over there, breaking records, just consistently. Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver, best hands, the way he tracks the ball, the way he gets off the ball is just poetry in motion when you're watching a wide receiver play football. He is the best. You can talk about Ja'Marr Chase next to him, but I think Justin Jefferson clears him, those 2 teammates out of LSU, 1A, 1B for me in the NFL.
No doubt. Jay Jetta's the guy that works. He's able to keep up with guys like Tyreek Hill and Ja'Marr Chase, but having to work with less. Always a lesser quarterback, always a lesser offensive line, making it happen time and time again for the Minnesota Vikings. This is a guy that doesn't get enough recognition, and every time I see his name, you know exactly what I'm thinking of when I say this. That game against the Bills a couple of years ago when he went up for that unbelievable catch. Every time I think of Justin Jefferson, I think of that play, and he just runs. He is the engine for the Minnesota Vikings. He's the number 1 receiver. He's the best hands, the best build, the best wide receiver in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you there. Run through my top 10 list here for you real quick. At number 10, we've got, at number 10 here, we're going with Drake London, Brian Thomas at 9, Puka at 8, Amon Ra at 7, Malik Neighbors 6, Nico Collins, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, and then Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson to round out the top 10. We're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we take a look at everything going on in baseball. The home run derby going on right now. We've seen a 500-foot home run hit from O'Neal Cruz already in this one. We'll talk about that. Everything going on with the MLB draft from last night with some shocking picks with number 1 and number 2 and much more coming up next here on the Triple Threat Show. Welcome back to the Triple Threat Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus, joined today by my friend and co-host, May Rob here. If you were just tuning in, we just finished going over everything you need to know about storylines from the NFL. Top 10 wide receivers in the NFL from each of us. We talked about Garrett Wilson making a whole lot of money, as well as the second round holdouts. In this segment, we turn our attention over to the MLB. And I want to start off with the big story here right now, that having to be with everything going on with the MLB draft. The MLB draft first round was yesterday. It continued into today. We've seen the first 10 rounds of action in the MLB, but really what I wanted to focus on here is the first couple of picks in the MLB draft. The first one made by the Washington Nationals. They picked Eli Willits, son of a former Angel in the major leagues there. He is a 17-year-old, the youngest player ever to be taken at number 1 overall, but also he might not have been the best player in this draft. The MLB draft is a very interesting draft when you compare it to the rest of the major leagues. You talk about the NBA draft that just happened, the NFL draft before that. These two drafts are immediate impact players. We're talking about first and second rounders in our last segment that are holding out because they want their money. They're going to be immediate impact players. In baseball, it's not like that. These guys are being drafted at a high school. We're not going to see them at the major league level for another 3 years. So it's hard to draft, or it's hard to judge draft picks immediately. It's hard to pass judgment on that. But there are a couple of things that you can look at and you can say this might not have been the best decision. The Angels taking Tyler Bremner at pick number 2, the 18th ranked pitcher in this class. Not just the 18th ranked prospect, the 18th ranked pitcher in this class at number 2 might have been the most egregious pick, but I do want to talk about the Nationals pick a little bit. They draft shortstop out of a high school in Oklahoma when one of the best prospects out there, son of Matt Holliday, Ethan Holliday, also out of a high school in Oklahoma, goes to the Rockies at 4. Now, a lot of the reason for that is because the Rockies had meetings and said, hey, we're going to give you a lot of money. We're going to give you a lot of money here. In fact, the biggest slot bonus that we have seen in MLB history went to Ethan Holliday at number 4. But the way that the MLB draft works with money is you have a certain amount of money to spend for the entire draft. You just have to allocate that to different draft picks, and there's slot values for each and every single one. The Nationals in the past have kind of looked to pay less than the slot value, which is a lot of what people think happened when they made this pick at number 1. But the biggest head-scratching decision for me when I talk about what the Nationals are doing has to be with what their team looks like right now. The Washington Nationals on display in the home run derby have James Wood, an elite outfielder who's one of the most exciting hitters in baseball. You have C.J. Abrams at shortstop, and that's where this kind of starts and stops here for me. C.J. Abrams is young. He's due for a contract in a couple years after they traded for him when they broke down that World Series team from 2019. C.J. Abrams has been an all-star last season. He has been their second best player this season. Him and James Wood have really been the only two positives on the offensive side of the ball for the Washington Nationals. And now with this draft pick, it kind of feels like they're ready to move off. The Nationals have been bad, horrendous even, at keeping talent around. You think about guys like Anthony Rendon, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, these guys that have been MVPs, have been World Series champions, have been elite defenders and silver sluggers, and all of this, they let them walk. And it's not necessarily because only the ownership is cheap, but there's a lot of issues in DC, not to mention the fact that they fired their GM and their manager a week before the draft. There's not a lot of positivity coming out of DC baseball right now, and this draft did not help. It did not help the DC fans, the DC baseball fans feel like we had a place to go for the future here. It is a mess over there. It's not necessarily a bad pick either. It really isn't. If I'm being completely honest with you, it's not a bad pick. He is a guy that is the most toolsy guy in this draft. And what I mean by that is he's got like a above average grade on just about everything. Fielding, hitting, power's not quite there, but he's 17, so he'll develop that probably. But the Nats are not good at developing things. They need a guy that'll fit their timeline, a timeline that is probably about to start to be at least a playoff contender next season. This was not a great pick. I don't love it for the Nats, and especially the implications for a guy like C.J. Abrams going forward. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these draft implications here. What was your biggest takeaway from the MLB draft last night?
I mean, just kind of piggybacking off of what you said, I think when you're talking about the Nationals, they just need to fit. I think you said it best. They just need to fit somebody that fits their history, another defensive guy, another defensive fielding focused guy. As well as important as it is to get somebody on the offensive end to kind of help out with everything, I think you need to focus on the fielding side of things, on the defensive end. Somebody with tenacity, with a younger player that you can build on and that you can build a culture with. Um, Outside of that, I don't really think I think the Rockies did really well with their draft. I think I'm pretty happy with how they've done so far. They've addressed a lot of their issues, but outside of that, I don't really see many other teams. It's kind of hard to tell, especially with the MLB, with how many times players, especially younger players, that they have to go through the training and everything to build up to becoming a major league player.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, it's hard to pass judgment on everybody in the MLB draft right now because we're talking about 17-year-old kids at a high school. There's going to be guys that come up. Cade Anderson was the big name as far as MLB ready guys, the MVP of the World Series of the College World Series this year, the star pitcher from LSU who's produced not too shabby pitching products recently. Guys like Paul Skeens, not too shabby over there. But there were other options out there, and I just think, especially the Angels. I want to talk about Tyler Bremner a little bit. Tyler Bremner has some good stuff. He's got really good off-speed pitches, but he's a college arm when you had the best college arm available for you in Cade Anderson, right? These are guys that the Angels desperately need someone to come up and be ready for them as they try to compete in the twilight years of Mike Trout, as they've wasted, well, his entire career over there not being a competitive team. They added Shohei Ohtani. It didn't matter. They didn't have the pitching staff for it. They're trying to get those pitchers, but instead of getting the most pro-ready guy, a guy that could come in and potentially even pitch in the MLB this season, he's that close to being ready. Maybe not an elite ace level guy, but a guy that could be a third, fourth kind of starter immediately on a team that could use a guy like that in the Angels. Instead, they get a guy like Tyler Bremner. And I'm not saying that, again, I don't know what his future is going to hold. I don't know if he's going to round out and be that kind of devastating 1-2 punch guy that he could be with the stuff that he's got. But when you talk about the people that were available at 2, you have every pitcher on the board, including Cade out of LSU there. I just don't like that pick at all. And I think that's probably the most glaring mistake of the entire draft right there.
Yeah, especially in a team like the Angels that are so up and coming. They've done really well on fixing that lineup. Bringing in a Zach Neto, bringing up Nolan Schnall, who's done an unbelievable job. They've done really well with that lineup, but like you said, that pitching has been a glaring issue for a long time. They bring in Shohei, doesn't do anything. Mike Trout and Shohei don't even sniff a playoff game. Um, at some point or another, you have to just address that pitching situation, and they just keep running from it. It is what it is. It's the Angels, though.
You never quite get that right there. But let's talk a little bit about what's going on right now. The MLB Home Run Derby has just kicked off here. The Home Run Derby, of course, may be the most exciting little piece of sports as far as all-star break stuff goes in any of the 4 major American sports there. The Home Run Derby's already started. We've seen a couple incredible performances in the first round, kicking it off with James Wood, who has already been eliminated. 16 home runs for him in round 1, including an out-of-the-park home run, 486 feet for him, and the longest home run since they were in Colorado. Very quickly surpassed with a 513-foot mammoth of a shot from O'Neal Cruz, a guy that hits the ball like a rocket every time it touches his bat. He finished there with 21, the same total as Junior Caminero. Those two guys, the big power bats, the big exit velocity bats next to James Wood in this draft. Brent Rooker, 17, still alive for now, although Byron Buxton just finished with 20, so we'll have to see what happens when the last 3 guys go. Jazz Chisholm up right now. Cal Riley, the MLB leader in home runs, 38 of them through the first half, the best a catcher has ever had in the history of baseball. And Matt Olson, the hometown kid behind him. My pick for the Derby already has been eliminated in James Wood, but maybe that was a bit of a homer pick. O'Neal Cruz and Caminero were a little bit there behind him for me, but I know you had the hometown kid in Matt Olson. Talk to me a little bit about how you see the rest of this Derby playing out.
Yeah, I really thought Matt Olson would kind of, like you said, he's the hometown kid. He's in Atlanta. I think the crowd would give him a little bit of a boost in this competition. I think it still could, but my picks are either Matt Olson or Junior Caminero. Junior Caminero, a guy in Tampa Bay who's kind of just put this offense on his back in Tampa Bay. That's done really well. A team in Tampa Bay that nobody really expected to be as good as they are right now. And he's so far in the first round, he's done really well. 21 home runs in round one, um, tied for first with O'Neal Cruz. I think those were my two guys that I really thought. I'm still holding strong for Matt Olson, but we have to see how this first round shakes out. He's the last batter in the order for
A
tonight.
couple other guys that are still in there. Byron Buxton, who has the second longest home run, only trailing Mike Trout in the regular season of baseball so far. He is 20 home runs, so he's still alive here, trailing only O'Neal Cruz and Junior Caminero over there. As we look to get to that final four going forward, who is a guy that you've been surprised with in his performance? For me, it's obviously O'Neal Cruz. 513 feet is ridiculous what he's been able to do. That tied a record, longest home run in MLB home run derby history. 513 feet is almost video game numbers over there. Every time the ball touches that man's bat, it goes off over 110 miles an hour, it seems. He's got some special power over there. But in this format, a lot of it has to do with pacing yourself. We've seen Pete Alonso be this kind of expert at the home run derby the last couple years. He's not competing this season, but a lot of times what he would do is he would kind of get to a point where he felt comfortable and then let it coast the rest of the way. Is that something you think we'll see? We think we see more home runs going forward, or you think this is where all the power, where all the guns are in the first round?
I think a lot of these guys kind of feel out the competition. I think we're gonna see the most home runs probably either in the next round or the round after that. I think the power will stay strong. Um, I think we have to take a look at some of these players' ages. For what I'm seeing, it looks like all these guys are around the same age here. Byron Buxton, maybe not that, but across the board, you're seeing between the ages of 25 and 30 years old. That's pretty much what you need in this tournament, in this home run derby tournament. I think we're going to still see more home runs moving forward, and honestly, I'm kind of shocked by James Wood with the Nationals. He's done pretty well, 20 home runs in the home run derby so far, just in second right now, behind or 16 home runs just behind the rest of the group. He's done really well. So I'm kind of shocked with James Wood so far.
Yeah. Bad surprise here. We've just seen the finish up for Jazz Chisholm. 3 home runs for him. Reason why he was kind of at the bottom of the barrel for him, but not the kind of performance we were expecting. But we'll have to see. Finalists and the semifinal rounds coming up after we wrap up our show here. But thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Triple Threat Show. We have been your hosts, Jeremy Lapidus and Rob Fitemi here. Appreciate all of you guys for sticking around with us on a beautiful Monday evening here, July 14th. You can find us everywhere. We are on YouTube. We are on Twitch, where we're streaming right now. We're on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter. Name a place, we are there at 3 Threat Show, at Triple Threat Show, at the Triple Threat Show, at the _Triple Threat Show. Just find us everywhere you can. We will be back on Wednesday. We'll be talking more MLB stuff as the season about halfway through. Some awards. Who's winning at each of the major awards there. Some LeBron James talk. There's been some heat with his name in the trade market right now. We'll talk about that and much more then. We'll see you. Bye-bye.